Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Steam Forward podcast. As always, I'm your host, Savannah, and today our guest is Troy Mckalla, and he's here to share his wildlife education experience. And we're going to talk about snakes and Jamaica and all kinds of things. So please help me welcome Troy.
Steam Forward Podcast.
Well, hello, Troy, and thank you for joining us on the Steam Forward podcast. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Yes, we're so excited that you're here. So before we get into your career and your background and kind of the things you're doing now, just tell us something, or tell us, like, where did you grow up? Was it in Florida? Was it somewhere else?
So, funny story. I was born here in Miami, but I tell people that I spent like half my life in Jamaica.
Oh,
That's where my whole family is from, and just a couple of us have split off from there. But I go back and forth. Growing up, I was there about 3 times a year.
Yeah.
Speak the language, see all my family, all of that. So, but yeah, I've been back and forth. Currently, still in Miami.
Yeah.
I've been here, went to school here, made lots of friends here, but again, that's still my home back there. So,
Yeah. So what's your favorite Jamaican dish? Cuisine, shall I say?
oh, right now I'm actually hooked on the national dish, ackee and saltfish.
Yes.
But I'm plant-based, so we made a little remix to it. But
Yeah.
the fried dumpling, before I was plant-based, it was curry goat.
Yeah.
Curry goat and rice and peas, can't go wrong with that. But right now, I'm loving the ackee and saltfish. We make it with a heart of palm, green banana, and so fried dumpling. Can't go wrong with that.
Love that. Okay, so you're a fellow Jamaican
Yeah.
here on the podcast. And so did you go to college here?
Yes. I did some college here at Miami-Dade and at Broward. I started out in education, and then I went to biology.
Yeah.
But then things started to take a little bit of a turn, which I'm happy to tell you guys a lot more about.
Yeah. So why did you originally think you wanted to go into biology? Because that's such a, I like to say, a complicated field.
No, absolutely. Really and truly, because with biology, like I'm a nerd at heart. So I really want to know and deep dive into anything that I'm specializing in. So as I just start to learn more things, I'm just like, you know what? I want to know all of the nitty gritty, everything that's to it. Quickly found out that was pretty hard.
Yeah.
So as I started to go through that process, I also was working at the time, and I found a lot of great mentors in the field that I work in now. And from there, I'm looking back to go into school.
Yeah.
But at that time frame, I was just a lot younger, just more spontaneous, so I took advantage of it.
Yeah. So how did you know that you wanted to be an educator? I'm a fellow educator. I love it. I am aspiring to be a teacher. I graduated, but here in Florida, they have a really tough process of teacher certification. So it's all these extra classes that I have to take. So how did you know you wanted to teach?
Honestly, it's something that came to me just unknowingly. A lot of people, they would come to me asking for different animal advice or just anything, and I would just completely unload on them. And a lot of people, they will retain that information, or just even on social media, I would just post animal that I might have and talk about it, and people would be like, wow, I never knew all of that. So it was something that was really, really natural and unconscious for that matter, So once I found out that was like a gift of mine, I just took it to new heights. I started seeking mentorship in this space, just studying other people before me that have taught about similar topics. And literally just came from teaching just now. So
that's so you were kind of born to do it, you feel?
Yeah, absolutely.
So you said that you teach people. So let's get into what more of your teaching background. So you teach people about animals.
Correct.
How did you get in? How do you have this love or passion for animals?
So it's two worlds coming into one. Just like how I was saying that I partially grew up in Jamaica. So in Jamaica, my grandma's house, we have goats, cows, chickens, rabbits, you name it, it's out there. So I'm picking in the field, I'm feeding them, I'm holding them, all of that. And then here in Miami, one of my cousins, he actually had 2 ball pythons.
Wow.
And it was my first interaction with snakes. And at that time, I fell in love with them because they were really, really cool. You know, you're little, you look up to your older cousins. So I'm playing with the snakes, and then I went to go ahead and show my auntie and my mom, and showed them the snakes. Put them one run around my neck, had one in my hands, and they just freaked out.
Yeah, me. I'm an animal lover, but you can never convince me to touch, love, on, appreciate
Yeah,
a snake.
yeah. So literally, once they freaked out, my young mind at that time, I didn't have any impressions on anything that was like negative. So I was just like, what's the matter? Like,
Snake,
it's
yeah,
just a
yeah.
snake. So that led me down a rabbit hole where I was just like, you know what? Let me just find out everything I could learn about all of these different types of animals. And yeah, here I am today. I literally started cutting grass, washing cars, got my first snake, and just kept educating all my friends. People would
Right.
come over, ride around the block with a snake around my
Yeah.
neck, and it was really, really fun. But yeah, that's how everything all started.
So it was kind of like people have this, I guess, perception of a snake, right? It's going to bite you. It's mean. It's aggressive. It's angry. But you're kind of coming from the idea of like, well, you really have no knowledge about a snake, so let me teach you more.
Exactly.
I love that.
Exactly. And it goes to that point where it's a common saying, people fear what they don't know.
Right.
I feel like snakes, or just reptiles for that matter, they're like the pit bulls of the animal world.
And misunderstood.
So misunderstood, but they're like so sweet, so intelligent.
Mhm.
Even lizards, like I could keep going on and on,
Yeah.
but yeah, they're the best in my mind.
And so where do you get your knowledge of animals? Like you just pick one and you're like, I want to know more about this.
So a plethora of different places, but initially it was the Steve Irwin's Animal
Yeah.
Planet, Discovery Channel.
Mhm.
Even now, like on Netflix, they have documentaries. I'm all on them. I just
Mhm.
binge watch them straight through. But currently, yeah, I would look up different articles. I've been with different teams. I've done surveys on different animals, and I have a lot of great colleagues that are in the field doing a lot of remarkable work. So there's just different people I can bounce ideas off of and just
Mhm.
learn into what they're studying. So yeah.
That's awesome. And so tell us about your organization that you work for.
Okay, so I currently work for Pelican Harbor Seabird Station, and they're a nonprofit, so they focus on native wildlife rehabilitation. So I'm the educator there. I go to all the schools, libraries. I bring our ambassadors, teach all the kids. Same as usual. But with the nonprofit, it's just that they focus on native species here in Florida.
Right.
Now, I find that that's very, very critical and essential for our ecosystem here because, one, we have the Everglades.
Yeah.
It's the only Everglades in the world, you know. Lots of fresh water, and that's our drinking water. But all of the animals there, they're native, and they're specific to this region only.
Right.
There's people from all over the world that come to see this. So that's really something that I hold near and dear to my heart that I wanted to deep dive more into. You know, coming from the islands, I love the Caribbean species. So now I just focus on both. You know, I focus on the native impact that we have, and then also a lot of the Caribbean species, because Miami, we're a melting pot.
Right.
People from everywhere, but even ourselves, we don't know what's indigenous to our lands. So that's where my company bridges the gap.
I love that. So for the people that are watching that may not understand, so why is it important that you keep the native species balanced and here and populated where they're actually from?
For several reasons. Competition is one. Biodiversity, that's a huge one because the animals here, they all have specific roles in their ecosystems, just like how we have our roles. We go home, we have our houses, things of that nature. For example, the gopher tortoise, that's our state tortoise. That tortoise, I like to tell people, is the real estate agent of the ecosystem of Florida. Because the gopher tortoise, what they're going to do is they're going to create burrows in different pockets of the earth. And once they make those burrows and they leave them, other animals inhabit those same spaces. I'm talking from foxes, opossums, raccoons, snakes.
Yeah.
Even an alligator at one point. There was an article that an alligator made its way into a gopher tortoise burrow. So it makes different homes for other animals. Same thing goes for like woodpeckers, and just, everything is a cycle. Everything is connected. So we need everything that we have here. And because we are in this specific region, everything prospers off of each other. But once you introduce an invasive species, they start to change,
And people might not know. So what would be, because I know that there's exotic species and then there's invasive. What would be considered, or how would something be considered an invasive species?
So a native species is anything that is indigenous to the land.
Right.
Invasive, it means that it came from somewhere else and now has made its way here. Whether it's through the port of Miami, that's a huge way.
Right.
Pet industry, things of that nature. Now they're invasive, and they're here, they're living here, but they're still competing with our native species.
Right.
So anything that's not from here that is now currently living here. Couple examples. Our main examples, especially what we see at the station, is the rock pigeon or the rock dove. It's the regular everyday pigeon that you see. We have a Eurasian collar dove, a lot of species from Europe.
You know what I found out that was an invasive species that blew my mind? Are feral cats.
Yes.
And I was like, so when I found out that feral cats are invasive species because they take out a bird population here in
Billions every year. Yeah. Feral cats, they're number one. The ducks. The ducks, right now we're actually in migration season. So the ducks, we have Muscovy ducks. They're the ones with the red faces, black and white bodies. And then we also have Egyptian geese. They're like gray, really beautiful animals, but again, they're not from here. So all of our native species that may be smaller and just more adapt to this area, they're getting outcompeted. A lot of the other animals are actually like bullying them or even eating them, So it's just the competition, it messes up everything. But cats, they're the number one.
I thought that was bizarre.
Yeah, they kill billions of animals every year. So if you have your cats, please leave them inside.
Yes, as I tell people all the time.
Yeah.
Neuter them and leave them inside.
Yeah, because it's really bad. And it's something that nobody really acknowledges. Cats, people love cats. I love cats.
I have 2 of them. Yeah. So I love them.
But keep them inside, please.
So is there a specific species that maybe their numbers are declining and that you guys are working on rehabilitating to bring up the species numbers?
So I can't give you a specific species, but I can give you like the family per se. So the warblers, they're like little small songbirds that you will see. They'll like bob their tail. A lot of the warblers, because they'll catch them. Any like juvenile birds, what we refer to as fledglings, sometimes they drop out the nest. Once they fall out, then a cat scoops it up, and sometimes they just play with their food. When it comes to like lizards and things like that, I know we have a lot of invasive lizards. So like people may have been seeing the Bahamian curly tails.
Yeah.
There are little curly tail lizards everywhere. They eat those a lot, and a lot of anoles and things like that. So, but as far as for birds, I would say a lot of the warblers, sometimes mockingbirds, blue jays, things like that.
So you said that with your organization that you work for, that you're an educator.
Correct.
So when you go do you do like middle school, high school, elementary?
Everything.
You do everything. And so when you're at these schools, what is your outcome when you're there and you're teaching these students?
My outcome when it comes to education, and this is something that like really touches me in a different way, is leaving a first impression and a lasting impression. Because a lot of times the animals that I bring to any environment, that's their first time encountering that animal.
Oh, you bring live animals with you.
Yep.
Okay, that's awesome.
So we have an eastern screech owl and a Virginia opossum. And sometimes myself, I even bring like redfoot tortoises, boa constrictors, American alligator, And when I bring these animals, whether it's a 5-year-old or a 95-year-old, sometimes it's that person's first interaction ever with this particular animal. And the same way how I shifted my family and my everybody's perspective on like just the way I interact with animals and just the respect that I have for them. I'm able to do that with younger minds or even older minds that might be like stubborn to those type of things. So getting people to interact with an opossum for the first time.
I was going to say, that's actually a good example because recently here at our garden, there was a possum, and I'm not going to lie. I think because the way they look, they're a little terrifying to me. And then Pastor Linda's like, fear not. They don't have rabies and they don't attack people. And they're actually really good for gardens. Yeah. So yeah, you're really bringing some awareness and education to like everyday things that I think are in people's backyards.
Yeah.
Because people, they kill possums or they're like, they're gross or they call the exterminator or whatever.
Yeah. And it's really unfortunate because, one, this land is not like, as humans, I think humans are like pretty selfish in a way.
Yeah.
I'm not the biggest fan of humans, but I really feel that like humans, they feel they acknowledge that this land is something that we've shared with animals forever, you know? So it's like to build all this infrastructure and buildings and all of these different things without their consideration and just it that also causes an imbalance, you know? In a sense, this just actually came to me that like we're invasive too, you know, everybody's moving from up north and we're taking their homes and their spaces. So that's something that's really, really critical.
Yeah. It's like when people say shark attacks, it's like, well, it's not necessarily an attack.
Yeah.
You're the invasive species in the water. But yeah, it's just, I love that. So you're trying to change people's thoughts and also the language that you use around specific animals, because I think a lot of times we can look at wildlife and look at it as evil or dangerous or bad, but you're trying to change that narrative.
100%.
That's awesome. And so for you, Troy, what's next? So you're an educator, you're teaching people about animals, you're rehabilitating them. So what's next for you in your life, you think, within this year?
Honestly, more education on a consistent basis, a lot more outreach, you know, being out in the open, going to different venues, events, things of that nature. I feel like making that in-person connection is greater than anything. But also just having more of a social media presence. That's something that's also great.
You should get on TikTok.
No, for sure. I have started my TikTok.
Yeah.
I have started my TikTok and it's going well so far, you know, but just getting more consistent to it and dialing in on the type of education. Just because a little side note, like I know a lot of what's in the animal industry is more of a fear mongering, pretty much a fear mongering, like, how can I say, direction of like showing people, you know, and I don't want to put that in that negative light, you know. I want to show people that these animals, they're here for a reason, and it's not something that you have to be afraid of, you know, because I work with a lot of dangerous species, you know, like I have my own venomous snakes and crocodilians.
Your own, like at your house?
Yep.
What kind of snakes do you own?
Monocled cobras, copperhead, southern copperhead.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I used to work on a venom extraction team.
Wow. So, wait, tell more about that. Okay. Yes. So what was that like?
So I was in Homestead. I found great mentors, Tom Crutchfield and Ray Hunter. They taught me everything that I know about like venomous snakes and handling them, their behaviors, things of that nature. I also was working in the Everglades.
Yeah.
Worked with 13-foot gators and hatching out babies every year.
Jeez,
and then
that's awesome.
Also birds of prey as well, so like raptors, falcons, hawks, all of those different things. So I have a lot of license under my belt, a lot of experience, you know. But yeah, just working in those different spaces, you know, I know that we're really, really, really close with death.
Yeah,
you know, we're really close with death, so we can't take that for granted, but we also can't perpetuate that it's like it's a good thing, you know, like it's something that we're aware of, but we have to be mindful that, you know, there's younger minds that are watching us, right? You know, for those of us that are in the field, and I would hate to see like another younger mind see what I'm doing and just be like, okay,
I can do that too.
I could do that too, and I'm ready for it. That's not my message, you know. So I always just try to promote that more of a safer handling when it comes to these different species.
Right. Yeah, because I think I've seen like snake handlers on like YouTube. Because I'm I don't know why, I'm just deathly terrified. That's the one animal that I just can't get down with. And I just see them and I'm like, there's no way that this is safe. Yeah. So, wow.
100%.
It stresses me out that you have snakes at your house. Oh my gosh. But that's awesome. I think that you have such a great positive attitude about it and you have like the right message. Like, and I think that you're doing great things and you're very articulate and I've just learned so much today. And I didn't realize that, that organization was right here in Florida. And so you going to schools and teaching kids that probably have never even owned their own pet in their life, and you're showing all these exotic animals and just changing the narrative is such a great thing.
I appreciate
I honor you for that. And so just to wrap up this podcast, if you had one word for our word of the day, what would that word be?
That word would be, actually, it's my favorite word.
Okay.
Ambition.
And why is that?
Because I truly want all of the young minds to go after what they dreamed of. Do it for your younger self, your childhood self, because if you don't do it for yourself, life is just going to come at you, and that is not a great feeling. So have ambition, go after whatever it is that you want in life with all of your being, and get after it. So, yeah.
That's great. Well, thank you, Troy, for joining us on this podcast. I'm definitely going to tell Pastor Linda to have you come do some demonstration with the animals and stuff. I think that will be awesome. So thank you for your time, for your expertise, for your knowledge. We honor that and we value that. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And as always, a special thanks to our sponsors, the Children's Trust and Trinity Church. And don't forget that there are 3 ways in which you can listen or watch this podcast. If you'd like to listen, follow us on Apple or Spotify. If you'd like to watch, follow us on YouTube. Make sure that you subscribe, like, and click that bell for post notifications.